From the savage attacks of October a couple of years ago to the carnage and destruction that followed to the present, many residents of this district are appalled by what has happened in the Middle East. And the question for you, is there something that the U.S. and in particular Congress should have done differently in the past 5, 10, 60 years, or that they should do going forward that might have prevented something like that?
Well, let's just start from October 7th. The United States federal government should have withheld every single penny of taxpayer dollar to demand the state of Israel to come to a permanent, immediate ceasefire within the week of October 7th. That is what we could and should have done and did not. And now we see, even since then, just 2 weeks ago, an additional $3.3 billion of our taxpayer dollars were sent to the state of Israel. So leverage is what was not done. And then bowing down, giving money that, again, our own communities do not have to fund our public schools, to fund our hospitals, to fund our community centers, to pay for our own housing is what the misstep was. And then, of course, beyond that, I believe that now to make it right, that includes paying reparations and rebuilding the state of Palestine. Thank you.
I believe firmly in a two-state solution because when people can live in peace, dignity, and safety, not only are their lives better and do they have hope, but it increases national security worldwide. Right now, I think it is the job of the U.S. to be a leader in bringing in humanitarian aid to Gaza. We need not only to have everybody to have food and housing and hospitals and schools, but we need to start rebuilding hope on both sides of the border. What really upsets me right now is when Trump talks about going into Gaza and building golf courses and hotels. It again makes the United States a laughingstock on the world stage because that's not what the people of Gaza want. They want their lives back. They want their hospitals, their schools, and to be able to make sure that their children have a future.
I should start by saying the blonde is a dye job. I am Palestinian. That's a joke. This issue it's not complicated. People want to pretend it's complicated. And you should notice who in this race refuses to call what has happened in Gaza a genocide. And you should be looking at who supports unconditional military aid to Israel and who is backed by AIPAC. We should have used leverage, and we should have been doing it for decades. My grandparents were expelled in the Nakba. My father was born stateless. The Chicago area has more Palestinians in it than anywhere outside of the Middle East. And these are people that were removed from their homes, and that was far before October 7th. I very much believe in a world where Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side. But we are not being a good government, good to Americans, or good to our ally if we allow them to commit crimes against humanity and genocide.
My turn. Listen, I think that, I'm very much in favor of a two-state solution. I have hope that will happen. I'm concerned that it's not going to happen very quickly. The U.S. needs to play a diplomatic role there with very firm hands, and I think your comment about providing humanitarian aid, we should be just dumping humanitarian aid in there. I think that Israel let a humanitarian crisis go on for far too long. I think at the same time, they face a terrorist organization, not a government, that doesn't believe they should exist. So I think we need to hold those two things at the same time in our minds and understand that diplomacy is what's needed. I think that no one wants peace there in the Middle East more than the neighbors around what will be Palestine and Israel. We need to involve them and make them part of the solution.
Leaders need to lead with peace in their heart. I think that's the expectation here, and we have not seen that. I'm really informed by this by two experiences. One, as a survivor of violence, I know that violence often begets more violence unless something intercedes. I've also spent 21 years working in the national security realm. I've worked on counterproliferation. I've worked specifically on operations to keep weapons of mass destruction from falling into the hands of rogue nations. There are stated objectives of leaders of rogue nations to wipe other nations off the face of the earth. And they use proxies to fund their terrorism throughout the world. I also believe in a two-state solution, but I don't think that we have leaders that are willing to lead us there. And they have to be held accountable. And I think Congress plays a big role. And I think, again, who you send to Congress with experience in this realm and with experience in negotiating when lives are on the line is critical.
What happened on October 7th was an unthinkable tragedy and crime, and what happened in Gaza afterwards was an unthinkable tragedy and crime. And what I support in order to achieve the two-state solution that allows for peace and security and dignity and self-determination for everybody is for the U.S. to use its economic and diplomatic power to effectuate that, for example, by supporting the Block the Bombs resolution, which will put pressure on the Israeli government to actually do something differently. Now, if that's what you agree with, it should be very troubling that the overwhelming majority of Laura Fine's donations come from AIPAC supporters, that she traveled the country in recent months raising money from AIPAC because she supports a blank check of military aid for Israel. That is deeply problematic. It's why there's more than $50,000 of money from Trump donors supporting you, because that is a right-wing policy that is bad for Palestinians, Jews, Israelis, America, and the world.
Laura, under the rules of our...
Thank you.
You have 20 seconds to respond.
Thank you. Anybody who is supporting me in my campaign is supporting a woman who, yes, believes in the existence of Israel. Yes, believes in freedom and justice for all. But also, anybody who's investing in my campaign is investing in a 13-year record of someone who stood up to the biggest bullies in Springfield and someone who's made sure that Illinois is a 100% pro-choice state, somebody who has banned assault rifles in Illinois, somebody who has taken on corporate polluters. So anybody who invests in my record knows exactly who I am.
So is it a coincidence that so many Trump donors are funding your campaign?
I don't know who a Trump donor is who's donating to
You know
my
what?
campaign.
What's absurd is how you are seeing two career politicians use a incredibly critical political and nuanced issue as a political football. Both trying to fundraise on it, both trying to use one community against another in an already incredibly divided country.
Phil.
This is what is wrong with politics today.
Phil?